Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel for Friday night's extra time. This evening, joining us, as you can see, we have three beautiful people, we'll say, not myself included in that. Joining us, as ever, my co-host, not guest. We are joined by Laura. How's your week been?
Busy, stressful, but it's Friday, so it's fine.
Nice one. And just below me there, from a seated position today, because he's done it today, I believe, has been leg day for Scott. So he's decided to sit down in his, it looks like one of those Recaro chairs. Scott, how are you doing, mate? How's your week been?
It's been good, mate. Cheers. Good to be back.
And of course, you can see there, you may have seen this man with his blue steel on Tinder. We've managed to steal him away from a Friday night of dating or texting people and lack of dates. But we are joined by Ian. Good evening, Ian. How are you doing? How's your Friday shaping up?
I am great. I've just had a garlic bread special. Believe it or not, it was nice. It was nice.
I thought you were about to say I've just had a Tinder match. That's what I thought you were going to say.
So did I.
No, no chance of that
happening. And as always, thank you so much to those people for joining us live this evening. We got Tom. Good evening to you, Tom. Nice to see you. Just hinting there, later on, we're going to be talking about the Hall of Fame, and we're going to be talking about academy graduates, lads who came through the ranks, going all the way back. Well, as far as I could research. An early shout there for Gaza. Good evening to Dan as well. Tom there. He's talking about. We'll come back to Tom on that one, I think. Freddie, fully recovered from his COVID episode now. And we've got Geordie Tune for Life and a few others join us as well. So thank you very much to all those people who are joining us live. And of course, thank you to those people who join us later on, watching in the bath. That's why I do a lot of my podcast watching. There's a nice image for you there. My little hairy toes sticking out of the bath there with my phone on my iPad, whatever. So you're on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel, and of course you can become a member for £2.99. I've got the little scroll going along the bottom there. It gives you some extra content. We've got some really good stuff coming up. We have our monthly encounter with Ryan Taylor, where Chris does a little bit of a little show with him. They did a live phone-in a few weeks ago, so there'll be more stuff like that coming up. And of course, I always get this wrong. It's either between the lines, beyond the lines. Beyond the lines?
Beyond the lines.
Yes.
Beyond the lines.
Matty will be coming up with more beyond the lines as well, leading up to probably the Spurs game and the Wolves game, which is the next home game for the lads on the Friday night, which actually I'm really excited about as well. And as you can see below me, like I said before, we have Scott, and Scott is in the midst of his football manager experience, being the Newcastle United manager. Scott, what game week are we up to, or what episode are you up to, and what games are kicking about this week for our viewers to have a look at?
Yeah, so this week it's episode 7. I don't know what game week that relates to. I'm ahead of real life. But this week we had a league game against Southampton, which was the rearranged one. That had to be played a bit later because we didn't have the date. So the game just decided when that played. And then we had the FA Cup semi-final against Arsenal at Wembley. So, yeah.
Can you give us a little sort of a taster as to how that went?
I don't want to spoil it. I know I spoiled it for you, Ian. I'm sorry about that, but I don't want to spoil it for the viewers.
Was Football Managers, was their scheduling better than the FA's scheduling with that away game? Have we had it?
No, so we had Southampton, then 3 days later we have got Arsenal, and then 2 days later we've got Everton. So no, the scheduling was just as bad. And then another game got postponed because of our progress in the cup. So yeah, it's a nightmare. It's pulling my hair out. Like it's literally all gone.
You would think that there's probably not a lot going on because there's not a game this week. However, the lads are out in Dubai, and Stephen Taylor's team were put to the sword. Is it Gulf United, possibly? Is that what the team are called?
That's it.
Gulf
United. I just totally pinged out the top of my brain there. I believe we beat them 5-0 with 2 goals from Gale, 2 goals from Alan St. Maximum, and a goal for Joe Linton, the best defensive midfielder or ball winner midfielder in the world, statistically speaking, according to Tifo on the Athletics website. Definitely worth checking that out. So, so this week we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame as well. Like I said before, where we're going to be talking academy graduates. Also this week, I mean, we've had updates on injuries, some big progress with Kieran Trippier, and the lovely, lovely delight for the eyes, Callum Wilson as well. Isaac Hayden's been dealt with by the FA, and he's got some time now to respond. We've got the women's NUFC game, which has taken place. We've also got, I was going to have a little chat as we're talking about academy graduates about Elliot Anderson as well. And of course, looking towards that Tottenham game and the home game against Wolves. So quite a lot to get through, despite the fact that there's no actual football there. So going into those injury updates, I guess. Laura, were you heartened to see Kieran Trippier and Callum Wilson not just on the plane with their luggage, but actually on the training pitch and seeing getting some work done in the gym as well?
Yeah, I mean, I was quite surprised. I didn't think it would be so soon. I don't know if it was just the months have gone so quick, but is it earlier than everyone expected?
I don't know. I mean, what is the usual time for these types of things?
Metatarsals, it's usually like 6 to 8 weeks, but I genuinely cannot remember how long ago the Villa game was. I'm with like Laura. I don't really know how much time's passed.
No, it's gone so quick. But no, it was obviously like a good thing to see them training and with his boot off, and Wilson obviously training as well. But again, I don't know if it's just because I'm not a very trusting person, but I also think like, are they just doing that to just get my hopes up, and then like actually it is just very, very light training that they're doing, and they're actually nowhere near coming back. But no, it would obviously be a massive boost for them to come back earlier than expected. Just for us, really, not even so much. I don't mean to get ahead of myself or too big focus, but I feel like we're safe now. So not even just so much for our position or for the games, just for us, just to see them again, because it was so good for it, and to see them together as well, like, would be good.
Yeah, Scott. I mean, talking about are we being teased with how long it's going to take for these guys to get back? But particularly with Kieran Trippier, he's going to be key, isn't he, in the run-in? We've got 9 games left. But what do you make of Eddie Howe's approach to these injured players? He seems to be easing Alan St. Maximum back in a little bit. Do you think he'll do the same with Kieran Trippier, or do you think he'll chuck him back in when he as soon as he's sort of fit and ready?
I think, first of all, I think with Trippier, I think once he's at 100%, he's back in that team. We've got some tough games coming up, and I think his footballing kind of knowledge and just the way he is around the players. I know he'll probably be there, but I think he'd be a big miss if we didn't have him for like the Liverpool and the City game. Not that I'm expecting to get anything out of that, but just to have him on the pitch, it just cranks us up another gear, I think. For Wilson, I'm in two minds. I think if by the time Wilson's fit, if we're safe, don't play him. Let him have an extended recovery and get him ready for next season. I know a lot of people say, well, we'll just sign a better striker. There aren't many going. Like, there aren't many of Wilson's caliber going that we could go out and get. And, if the rumours this week are to be led, maybe the budget isn't going to be in the 200-300 million like everyone's expecting. I say rest him a little bit longer, give him a little bit extra time, and then bring him back, 110, 200% better than what he would be for what could be throwaway games if we're safe. I don't think it's worth the risk at all.
Ian, we've heard that dreaded word safe and safety so far. Later on, actually, I'm going to put it on you all by saying I'm going to ask you to make. I just
thought you were going to stop there. You're going to put it on us. I know I'm struggling on Tinder, but
I'm going to put it on you. No, I'm going to put you all on the spot and ask you to make some predictions for the remaining games. So
I've done mine. It's organised.
Oh, well done. Well done.
Thanks.
I've done mine. Proper teacher. Love
Teacher's pet.
Love it. Love it. See, this is why, Ian, this is why she's the co-host, you see.
I've got a bit of paper
key.
too. It's not as big or as extensive, but
and Scott's just got the matrix in front of him. He's already got it mapped out. You know what I mean?
It's the Tinder subscription prices.
Seeing how much I can afford.
Checking your finances.
How much do you pay for Tinder? How much
you were getting a drink before we had this conversation.
So just to divert a little bit. Obviously, when Tinder first came about, I was maybe about 19, 20. It was free, and then they started bringing out like different versions of it. So the first like ultra version of it was like £7, and like you get like adverts and stuff
a month.
A month. Wait there, hold on to your hat, Roger. Nearly £50 a month now for the premium version.
Tinder Gold.
No, there's Tinder Platinum.
Wow.
I know, and that's nearly 50 quid a month.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, crazy.
God.
And then there's Bumble, and it's just
wow.
And there's a gym one as well, Jumble or something. I don't know.
Is there
a gym one?
Oh,
I don't know. It's not called Jumble. It's not. I saw it. I think it was on Instagram. It was like
it's
a
for
date
for people that go to the gym.
If you're at the gym and you spot someone you fancy, Laura, do you know what I mean?
It's all women.
Yours is all women, isn't it? So
all women, and then me, da.
Yeah. Hey, your mother better be watching out, man, because Mal's phone it'll be ringing off the hook.
Right. There is a couple, but they're my dad's age, Jeff as well. Malcolm and Jeff.
Mm-hmm. Doing that thrusts.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
nice
so
one.
glad I'm not into all that. I couldn't be affording 50 quid a month.
Wow,
just to clarify for everyone, I don't pay for it. Like not that there's anything.
Are you talking about Tinder here? I know it's been a lean spell for you, but
I'm on about Tinder a lot of things. But yeah, not that there's anything wrong with it. Anyone that's watching that pays for Tinder, just financially not feasible for me at the minute.
Yeah. It's not financially viable at this present time. Do you know what I mean? What about, going out and just meeting people? You know what I mean? Join a club.
Wait, I give up my Friday nights to be with you guys, so.
Ian. Scott, look at the disgust on Scott's face there.
Why do I feel like I'm on blind date as well?
No.
Yeah, man. Anyway, so wow.
What talking about?
I mean, we've gone off. I mean, the lads ended the last show on Always Smiling Faces talking about bins, and we're talking about Tinder. So
Tinder subscriptions.
Yeah, Tinder bins to Tinder subscription. Anyway, Daryl, he doesn't pay for it, therefore I don't get anything, basically. Nah. And we might as well get a Tinder sponsor. Yes. So let's bring it round to the actual football. So do you think, guys, Ian, do you think that more likely, obviously, you think to see Trippier before Callum Wilson? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like I was saying just before, I think usually from me sports science days, like a broken metatarsal was probably looking at around 8 weeks. And I think I've seen someone comment there, the Spurs game was being 7 weeks. So I think I haven't seen the actual run of fixtures, but I think probably before, I'd say probably mid-April would see Trippier back. Obviously full fitness, things like that. Wilson, you might have sort of the last couple of games of the season. But to be honest, I wasn't expecting to see him at all for the rest of the season. So little bonus. And I agree with Laura. To be honest, I think we're safe now. So just be a nice little treat for her to have them back.
Laura, Blue Rhythm Boy there. It feels like we need Trippier more than we need Wilson. Is that a fair comment, would you say?
No, no. Personally, I don't. I would say no. As much as I'm not saying we don't need Trippier totally, but we're all right at the minute at the back. That they're doing all right, and I would prefer to say Wilson ahead of Wood. But again, I I still think we're doing okay without them. Yes, it would be great to have them, but we're in a decent position. It's not like a few months ago where it was like, right, as soon as Wilson's fit, get him in, even if he's not massively fit, just get him in. We need him, we need the goals, we need to stay up. Whereas now it's a bit more chilled and a bit more organised and a bit like we've got backup. So as much as like I can say where, oh sorry, I can't remember who it was, is saying that in terms of Trippier's leadership skills and reliability on the right. I also think that they're not doing too bad. We're not desperate for him back, whereas Wood isn't scoring the goals. Therefore, I would prefer to say Wilson. Personally.
Yeah, I think I would. They'll definitely be more cautious with Wilson because of the nature of his injury and his horrendous injury record.
Yeah.
But I think we're probably more likely to see Trippier, but we do need. I think we need Wilson a bit back a bit quicker. Just briefly touching on the Chelsea game and some of the fallout from that, which we've kind of had in the last week. Scott, Isaac Hayden's been issued with a disciplinary, bringing the game into disrepute for his comments about well done Newcastle against the 12th man. Scott, do you think there'll be an appeal there, and what do you think the chances are of him being successful? What do you think his defence might be?
I mean, the only defence he can do, I think it was Mark on the Over Smiling Faces podcast who said the 12th man is the crowd usually referred to, so he could claim ignorance on that. But yeah, I mean, should he have tweeted it? I don't think maybe he should have. You know, if it was a manager, it would be pretty much instant fine. I don't think you even have a chance to appeal it when managers kind of go off on the referees. That being said, I think it's an absolute shambles that you cannot criticise referees and that you cannot, you know, when it's clear and obvious, like it was, especially the penalty. Yeah. I know, clear and obvious, and VAR didn't pick it up. I think, you know, I think they have to really take a look at what's going on and even revisit the whole kind of criticism, because you always used to be able to do it, and then they got a bit of a complexion about it, the referees, and they decided to hand out fines left, right, and centre, and now it is how it is. I mean, the pundits on TV can openly do it. You know, is it going to get to the point where they're going to be censored? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. People on the telly, you know, you're watching the TV. If the manager isn't saying it in the game, the pundits are going to say it afterwards. So, what difference does it make? I just think there's a lot of egos in that referee cult. Is cult the right word? I think it is, really. And I think they don't let their egos being tarnished. And I think one of them is leaving at the end of this year in Mike Dean, and I think that might have an effect. I do like that he's going to be full-time VAR. I'm not necessarily over the moon that it's him, but I think they need someone to go full-time and do it week in, week out. But I think VAR, the technology is absolutely perfect. It's just the people using it is the problem. And once you get people using it week in, week out, know the stuff, know what they're doing, I personally think they should be in the ground. So they should have a person in every ground. You know, I mean, if Mike Ashley can sit up in the rafters at St. James's with a screen, why can't a fifth or a sixth official do the same thing? Earpiece on with a referee, because you'll feed off the crowd, you'll feed off everything. You'll get a lot more understanding of what's happened, other than just like looking at the screen going, well, that still shot there shows that it's absolutely fine, or that still shot there, or this in slow motion. I think, there's a lot can be done with VAR, but I think we're a long way off. I think we'll be a couple more seasons before we see it.
Yeah. He is listening to Jeff Winter on Under the Cosh yet.
I was just about to say to you, Laura. No. I mean, obviously, Jeff Winter gave a really good insight into the way the referees are. And he left refereeing 20 years ago almost. So even then, there's been a quantum leap forward. But there has been still, you know, there's this persistent talk of, it's usually from pundits and ex-pros about using ex-pros in the VR situation. Laura, do you think VR and referees would benefit from having ex-players involved? Not necessarily at the high-level players, but I think anyone who's played the game at a good level, semi-pro, lower leagues, you know, do you think that would be helpful? And why do you think they don't go down that avenue?
Yeah, massively, because I think it's the old cliche, well, you've never played before, so how would you know? I mean, when I even like talk to my dad and the lads in the pub, I always ask their opinion because I know I haven't played, therefore I might understand it slightly differently or have a different opinion, therefore they've played, so I ask them, and like they get, so I do think it would benefit massively from having someone involved and who has played football behind the scenes, given those opinions, because like we're seeing at Chelsea last week, there is not one person, pundit, no matter who they support or who they played for, thought that that was the correct decision. Therefore, how did the people at VAR get the different decision at everybody else? However, I do think it would be a logistical nightmare, because how would it work? Because like you couldn't have Jamie Carragher doing Liverpool, you couldn't, like it would, but I'm sure they could manage it. There's plenty of them, and there's plenty teams you could share it out to. But yeah, I think it would massively.
They could work it like they do with the referees, couldn't they? And like have those players, a bank of players, because there are a lot of players who drift out the game, and could it be a way for ex-players, maybe at that lower level, who maybe haven't had the riches of the Premier League, however they know the game, they know all the tricks, they know everything. Surely there's got to be something that can be done there.
Because I don't even think, like I was on about myself, you don't even have to have played at the highest level. You just have to have played the game at some sort of level, which obviously I haven't, to understand it and know the tackles, the decisions and all that. So yeah, it doesn't matter what level you are. They could get people in that have played the game.
Yeah,
it's a fair point as well, Roger, that you made about like players that not necessarily made it, like sort of the top caliber players, but like the ones that don't sort of, that aren't pundits or that aren't sort of going into coaching. It would, because obviously you hear a lot about sort of when players retire and so what it does for their sort of lifestyle and their, like, even their mental health and stuff like that. It still keeps them involved in the game. So I think we should campaign that. We should go to the FA with that, Roger. I think it's a sterling idea.
I try my best. El Grande Salmon's brought up an interesting point. Just going back to that point about Isaac Hayden. Sorry to block you out partially there, Scott. About the decision about, the FA have to clamp down on these things because you would have mob rule, I guess. Scott, do you kind of agree with that? Do you see where El Grande is coming from there?
I do, yeah. I mean, like I think I said, Hayden shouldn't have said what he said, and he shouldn't have done it. But I don't think they're beyond criticism, and I think maybe his choice of words was poor. And it's quite clear that a manager with proper media training will have a lot better of a response to what maybe Hayden's had, who probably hasn't had as much media training as the likes of Eddie Howe would have done. So I think could have been worded a lot better, but there's a time and place. I don't think social media was the right place to do it either. Had he been interviewed, post game, and it was just something that he said on there, then maybe it's a bit different. But I don't think he should be posting, especially when he's not playing. Like if he's not, if he's not on the pitch, I don't think he should be doing that.
Do you think though that maybe Wise tweeted it because he thinks, oh well, I'm not directly involved with the game.
That's what I was going to say.
But
I wondered if because he doesn't have a squad place, he thought, well, I'm untouchable because I'm not in the squad.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what I say.
Anyway.
Yeah, but maybe it shows the unity within the squad. That they're very very much. Perhaps Eddie Howe's created this siege mentality amongst the players, like very much like Mourinho did when he first went into Chelsea, and it was a bit like everyone's against us, nobody likes us, so let's dig in, and maybe that is a bit of a motivation, and that's maybe what the squad have together. This does seem to be, although we are low on quality in certain areas, I think there's undeniable, there is that team cohesion, and there is that belief in that pack mentality amongst the players where they obviously defend each other, and they're willing to risk sanctions from the FA to kind of put their opinions out there. So I think you might have a cheeky little appeal in just throwing that thing about the Chelsea, but But who knows? We'll await what his response is. And
say I don't. I just think he'll own it and go, yeah, I was absolutely taking the piss, and
yeah,
fair enough. I'll take it, because I think it's more embarrassing if you're like, oh, I didn't mean that. I meant the other thing. I think it just comes across.
Depends how big the fine is. You know what I mean?
We all knew what he meant. Everyone knew what he meant. It would be like when the kids go, oh, I didn't mean it like that. Like, oh, I didn't say the F word. I said flip. Like, no, you didn't.
No, I didn't. No, you didn't, kids.
Clearly heard you.
You absolutely didn't say the word flip. Not even on Pancake Day, saying the word flip, young man. Just pipe down, will you? So moving on to some really, really big news. Really fantastic news, actually, this week. I know since the new owners have come in, there's been a real big push towards lots of different areas that have been sadly neglected over the years. And the news of the women's team, NUFC Women, are going to play a game against Barnsley Women. Not the Barnsley Woman, as I said before we went on. Just one woman from Barnsley, standing in the middle of pitch. Come on, then, Jordis. What you got? Yeah, we're going to play Barnsley Women on the May the 1st at St James's Park at 2 p.m, which I believe, Ian, did you say it was the game after the Liverpool game? Right?
Yeah, game after Liverpool. And it's great because it's only like it's £3 for a ticket as well. So it's absolute coppers. To be honest, I think it's because I think Murdad, I think he's been to a couple of the women's game. He always sort of like on on Twitter, he's always like, when they have a game day, wishes them well. It's just really, really good to see, because like you say, it's one of the areas of the club that's been completely neglected from sort of previous 14 years or whatever, and just having them in the stadium and part of the whole club sort of umbrella is fantastic, I think.
Yeah. Laura, do you think, like Ian said, £3? I mean, it'll be a summer, like May on a Sunday afternoon. I mean, I'll be taking my little girl. She's already buzzing about it. Laura, do you think we could be in for a bumper crowd?
Well, I know, like, the girls that I've been going to the pub to watch the football with, I know they're organising a group to go as well. So, I think it's like, just to echo what Ian said, really, it's just like, even just to make them feel a bit more included in the overall club is just a great thing for them, rather than be like a completely separate team. I feel like they're making them feel as part of one massive club rather than two separate teams. And I just think it's good for them. Like, I know we've talked obviously about... I don't watch it or anything. I take any interest.
Oh no, I think well,
like,
I think we'll be.
But
I think as the club grows, Scott, the women's team, the women's game is absolutely huge. It's a massive area of potential growth, and the women's team are doing pretty well in is it Premier League 2? I think they're in the second tier. Scott, do you just think this is this is part of PIF and the investment group? Do you think it's part of their plan to have this whole sporting entity that is just pushing in every single direction and really pushing forward?
Absolutely. I think, it was one of the first things that Amanda Slavely mentioned when she was interviewed on that, that day when the takeover happened. She's like, look, youth academy, women's team, it's all getting sorted. Like, she obviously didn't use those words, but they could see the neglect, and they were just like, yeah, we've got to do it. I think I did remember reading somewhere that they're making the women's like full professionals next year.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they are.
Wow.
So I think that's happening as well. I mean, you've got to, look at the teams who are top of the women's league. It's like your Chelseas and your Cities. I think Arsenal have a good women's team as well.
Yeah.
They've all got banging facilities everywhere, and they'll get to use those facilities. And hopefully when we get our, training facilities up to par, the women will get to use that as well. And it'll just, it's not just the team. I mean, you've got to think of the, little lassies growing up as well, who are watching the men's team, really the only ones that they've been able to watch of recent time. And then, the women, they're doing better than the men in recent times from what I see on Twitter, like they're winning more games. It gives them incentive to be like, I want to do that. I want to be the next. I don't know any of the players on the women's team. I'd be lying if I did, but like, I want to be the next, whoever it is. And it just gives them a bit of fuel. And the fact, like Ian said, it's £3 for them to get in. Like, even if you've got, kids of any gender, just to get them into St. James's Park for £3. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's the cheapest way to get into St. James's Park at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. So that'll be, I mean, WSL record attendance is 38,262. So let's have a push at trying to beat that. Let's try and hit the 40,000 mark. I mean, what an experience for those black and white women. So moving on from that, the team out in Dubai, they've played Stephen Taylor's Gulf United. We won't be able to see any goals unless somebody's filmed it on a camera. But Alan St. Maximum obviously has been a controversial figure the last few weeks. He's got a couple of goals, and the wonderful Joe Linton scored as well as Dwight Gale as well. To be fair, going back to our Irish heritage last week. Were you all delighted to see Stephen Taylor there looking very? He always reminds me, Alex. Can you remember British Home Stores? Surely BHS.
Mm-hmm.
He was like Mr. BHS. Everything's very angular and very. His hair's always exactly the same angle. His shirt is very thingy, but he looked very chuffed with himself to be standing with one of the coaches or one of the staff there at Newcastle. Ian, do you think this 5-0 is going to inspire us for the remainder of the season?
Wait, you're laughing. We've beat was it Al Ittihad when we beat them 2-1 and then went on 9-game unbeaten run.
Hey.
I mean, there's probably like no sort of correlation between the two, but you never know. But no, it's like you say, it's hard to gauge what the performance was like, what the players were like, because there's no. Shall I tell you what it reminds us of? There was this thing that I seen, and it was basically like North Korea. It was like one of their news channels had said, "Oh yeah, like we've won this game of football 10-0, and this player scored 7 goals."
Is it when they beat Brazil?
So something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're probably in hindsight, like in reality, it was probably like a 0-0 draw or something, and we're just like, "Oh no, yeah, St. Maxim scored. Dwight Gale's even getting in on the goals as well. That's great to see out here." But
we've got some propaganda going on.
It's just good to have the sort of the group of players all together, getting sort of the match experience as well. So like you say, the last trip didn't do any harm. It sort of gave her a little kickstart. You got the new manager bounce effectively, and hopefully you can just carry that sort of momentum, the team cohesion from out there, bring it back into the run of fixtures that we've got coming up.
Now, Ian, because you mentioned cohesion, I'm going to segue to somebody who would probably destroy our cohesion. The last couple of days, you may have seen on various news outlets and on Twitter, a prediction of a signing that's probably from the realms of Football Manager. So I'm going to come to you, Scott. Neymar was linked with Newcastle, as also Paul Pogba was today as well, but we'll kind of come on to that perhaps. Scott, I mean, it's one of those ridiculous links, isn't it? Like putting 2 and 2 together. We've got a load of cash. He's probably not happy at PSG. You know, he's 29. He probably wants one more payday. Do you think we're going to be watching Chris Wood and Neymar up front next season?
No, I don't think that's got any legs at all. I'm not saying I would have him. I'd have him tomorrow. If you'd offered his Neymar, like you've got to, right? He's one of the best players in the world on his day. Whether he's good for the changing room is another question, but there's no doubt about like an on-form Neymar is unplayable. So yeah, of course. Like no Newcastle fan is going to say, "Oh, I don't want Neymar, I don't want him." But yeah, I think it was funny when the takeover happened. Everyone's like, "Oh, the Geordie fans are going to be expecting to sign Mbappe and signing Haaland and all this and all that." And now the press are going, "You're going to be signing Neymar." It's like, well, hang on a minute. Can we have this or can we not have it? Like, what's going on here? So yeah, when I read that and I read the Paul Pogba stuff, Paul Pogba is the one that I would say absolutely no. I mean, he's pretty much torn Man U apart. When he's on his day, he's a world-class player and he's done some really good things for Man U, but I think his attitude absolutely stinks, and he's probably one of the catalysts that got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sacked, and the whole team mentality You don't need that around your dressing room. Not for us. We're not big enough yet for that. You know, maybe in 3 to 5 years time, you can have a player who maybe starts to do that and they can get sorted out themselves. But I mean,
was just gonna say
you'd have Neymar, you'd have St. Maximum, you'd have Joe, you'd have Bruno Guimaraes. It would have a nice Brazilian kind of spine,
sprinkling of
bit of a
Brazil.
curvature to go onto the left, but sprinkling of Brazilians.
I think Laura. I suppose we'll go into the Pogba link. It's an easy link, isn't it? It's a free transfer at the end of the season. His wages will be astronomical. But then again, so is the baggage is astronomical. Surely we're not going to be seeing Paul Pogba
for a fact, like we know too much about Eddie Howe now and how he works and his personality and what he expects of players to know that he would never in a million years want Pogba. Never. Yeah. He's not his type of player at all. I mean, people are already saying Maximum's not his type of player. Never mind Paul Pogba, who's like Maximum times a million. Like it's just no. As much as I don't mean this as like, oh, Newcastle fans are getting too big for the boots, so won't even take Pogba. It's not about his footballing ability at all. It is purely down to character in the dressing room.
But the team.
You need to look elsewhere. He's not one that I would.
Yeah, I mean, Blue Rhythm Boy comes up with an interesting question about, is he going to be able to handle these big egos? I mean, it's really difficult to say because, we sit from a distance. All we get is the tidbits from the Daily Mail and the, different rumours that I might hear and then stuff people just make up on Twitter. So it really is difficult to sort of really say, oh, no, but is Eddie Howe going to be able to do this, do that? And what type of player does Eddie Howe want? But I think, we do, from what we gather from Eddie Howe, do you think that he's going to be given the license to just sign the players he wants rather than when big consortiums take over clubs, they want a marquee signing, they want to, Ian, do you think we'll get to the point where we will have a Neymar or a, not necessarily that person,
not necessarily
somebody just parachuted into Newcastle and Eddie Howe will just have to make it work? Or do you think there's a bit more trust between Eddie Howe and the owners for them to do that?
Yeah, I would like to think there's a bit more trust. Obviously, sort of the transfer window just gone because obviously there wasn't the director of football there or anything like that. So Eddie Howe was heavily involved with that. Obviously, I think what's his name from Brighton, Dan Ashworth. Dan Ashworth. Yeah. Obviously, with him looking like he'll be in that role next year. It'll be interesting to see sort of the makeup of that. But I think looking at the players that Howe's brought in, I think I said this on another episode. It's very much what Laura was saying. It's not about in terms of football ability. Yes, you need players with ability, but it's more about the character. So I would like to see sort of. I think he would still have a big say in who he wants. And obviously those discussions would have to be made. But like you say, sort of the likes of PIF wanting to be sort of like a global brand, wanting Newcastle to be a global brand, they'll eventually want that big ego, that big name signing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I think especially next season though, like it's not going to be like the massive names still yet. And you just need to look at the January transfer window. I mean, Matt Targett and Dan Burn and Chris Wood were very underwhelming signings. And apart from Chris Wood, who hasn't yet got like the goals that we expected, he's still doing great. And I mean, Matt Targett and Dan Burn are doing absolutely brilliant. So it's not always about those big names, especially next season, I think, which is going to be it's going to be the key season where we then start to build. Like this season was just about like survival. And then next season, I think Eddie Howe will have a big say next season. And then it'll be what's that word? Like the coming up season. But what's it called? The coming up seasons, like the
following seasons,
following seasons, where it will be
the coming up seasons.
No, but then the following seasons, it'll be interesting to see how much say Eddie Howe does have when we're starting, hopefully, to go up the table.
Just quickly on sort of attitudes. and this is just from my sort of personal stance, two of the players that I thought the attitude stunk, quite frankly, under Steve Bruce was John Joe Shelby and Ryan Fraser. And while I know they're not the size of the egos of the likes of Pogba and Neymar, you just need to look at what Eddie Howe's managed to get out of them. Like even Ryan Fraser saying in these interviews that like he has him in sort of, they have like one-to-one time with him and stuff like that. So he quite clearly can manage sort of attitudes and things like that. But like you say, it's a couple of seasons time where sort of that will tell.
Yeah. Scott, I think, the consensus is, like we've been saying, looking at the forthcoming seasons.
That's it.
No, somebody put it in. I can't take any credit for that. Somebody else did say. That there is going to be a steady step up in the caliber of players that we're going to sign, and a lot of people are speculating on. I saw a lot on Twitter this week about players that you get rid of, and one of the players that a name that frequently comes up, who actually started the last couple of games and has come under the spotlight a little bit, I would say, is Miguel Almiron. A few seasons ago, he was our shining light, possibly. Yeah. He was our marquee signing. Scott, do you think, players like him, Isaac Hayden, are these players going to be moved on? I think, Dwight Gale's probably ready to be moved on. And how do you think Newcastle are going to navigate that, that period of time where we've got players on big contracts with a few seasons left? And is there going to be payoffs? Do you think there's going to be players moved on? Or what do you think the summer's going to look like in terms of outgoings rather than incomings?
I think we'll see a fair few. I think we might see 6 or 7 go. How the club handles it, I have no idea how they're going to do that. I mean, I don't think it'll be payoffs.
How would you do it from a football manager perspective? What would you do?
Do you know what? I've played a few seasons of Football Manager this year, and it's very, very hard to shift some of the Newcastle players. No one wants them, which is, I mean, that's just detrimental to how they were playing end of last season, beginning of this season. I think if they were going to sign off players' contracts and release them, they would have done it in January with the players that didn't make the squad, like your Kieran Clarks and the Jeff Hendricks. I think when it comes to Miggy, it just hasn't worked, has it? Like he seems such a nice lad, and he gives his all, but
just a little
he's just got to squeeze cheeks like a little baby. But he just hasn't got power in his legs. Like he can run, but for me, like you see him take a shot, and he just seems to almost side-footed all the time. Like he doesn't, but it would be that type of power that he gets on the ball.
Shearer said that, didn't he, against Everton when he was commentating? Shearer said that as well. He said he's got no power behind him whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, even the goal he scored last night, if you look at it, there's no power on it. It's like a little finesse curl around the goalkeeper. Yeah. I do think, though, if Miggy, that first game, I think it was the first or second game when he was one-on-one with the keeper and he chipped the keeper and it hit the post, if that had gone in, we'd have a different player.
Sliding doors moments.
He didn't score for 35, 36 games, did he, after that? And I think we would have had a completely different player on my hands. I also think Rafa brought him in. I think if he'd stayed under Rafa and actually been trained by Rafa as opposed to what happened, we would have seen a totally different player as well.
Yeah.
There is a player there, but he's just not. I don't think he's Premier League. I don't think he's Premier League quality, unfortunately. And I hate saying that because I really wanted it to work for the lad, because I think he was when he was crying when we lost that game, like really early on when he signed for one, you just seen him crying on the sidelines, just like, oh, this kid just wants to perform, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I think, Ian, do you think we'll see maybe Almiron moved on, maybe he's to Spain? Like, is he a player that could probably make it in the Spanish league and maybe in France or something like that?
It's a difficult one. I think, again, just with all the dead wood that'll be shifted on, and there's a lot of it. I don't know if they'd keep him maybe another season. I don't know. I agree with Scott. I just don't think it's worked for him. Unfortunately, I don't think that is helped by sort of, especially under Bruce. He was played almost like a holding midfielder, which quite clearly wasn't his role. When you seen him sort of like.
Did Steve Bruce play players out of position? Like,
I think
is that what you're trying to accuse?
One or two games, I think he might have. I think it was enforced, though. It definitely wasn't tactical or anything like that.
No.
But no, I think
he doesn't do tactics, Ian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I think when you're seeing sort of how much Miggy liked to get forward, and he looked quite an exciting player. Going forward, sort of the first handful of games he played for, again, agree, he just needed that goal to give him a bit of confidence, but it just, like you say, it just hasn't really worked out for him. But I don't think personally we'll ship him off next season. I think we've got still too much to rebuild to be letting players. Let's face it, he's not a bad player by any means. He'd probably be a really good squad player next season. It's like I say, I don't think he's wanted to stay sort of past maybe next season.
Yeah, and plus he's 28 as well, so he's only got he's sell by date and being attractive to other teams. Laura, who would without being too harsh, but who would be on your sort of first wave of players? Because I think it'll be like kind of you guys have alluded to about waves of players going. I think they'll identify, right, these players can go first. We'll keep your Miggies and and because I think it'll be more of an evolution. But who do you think, Laura, will be the first kind of players that will kind of shift and get out the door?
Before I answer that one, I just want to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit about Miggy, because I also just feel like if it was any other player, would be saying he wasn't good enough. I personally don't think he's good enough. I think he was our weakest link against Everton. I think I don't think he's good enough for the Premier League. And I think we've got like this, which we kind of do as fans sometimes when we like someone and he's got a nice smile and he's likable. I think we kind of feel sorry for him. And I think we've got like rose tinted glasses and like, oh, it's Miggy though. And I used to be the same, like genuinely I did. But now I think that we've had the takeover, we've got higher hopes, we've got higher ambitions. I think you just need to start being a bit more ruthless and it's like, actually not.
Bit cutthroat,
he's not good enough. Like, and I get what you're saying Ian, about a squad player next year, and about rebuilding, like maybe possibly he could stay. But personally, I think if it was anybody else playing the way he's playing, would be saying they're not good enough. I think it's just because he's so likeable. Like, he was crying against whoever it was when we lost. Like
you can see the efforts there, but I just the efforts there. I just don't think the quality's there, unfortunately.
But I think and it was a good. I think I seen in the comments as well. There was a good point about Gale being quite hard to ship because he's on like a. Oh, where was it? He's on like a good wage and he's got family settled. And funnily enough, I listened to the Shea Given podcast last week when we were doing Ireland, and he was saying exactly that about it's not just as easy as getting rid of players when they are very much settled. They've got family, they're in schools, they've been there for years. It's not as easy as what possibly who have no idea how transfers and things work. I would just think, right, you're gone. You've got no choice. You're gone. I don't really know.
It's like almost just thinking like real life football's like Football Manager and FIFA. Like all you're doing there is literally just shipping a player to another club. Whereas, like you say, there's obviously if you've got family settled, they'll have to like look at schools, like areas that they'll have to move to.
And if they're still in contract, it's not. I'm assuming it's not as easy as just saying you're gone.
I think that's where settlements will come in. I think it's inevitable that certain players are going to just have to accept a settlement, which at the end of the day probably works in their favour because they get a nice pay up of the contract and then they go into the next club free to negotiate with a lot better in terms of a wage structure. So I do feel like there will be a few payoffs for certain players, and thank you very much for your service. There's your golden carriage clock and there's your Parker pen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Laura, come on.
I know. Do you think though? Will he?
Let it go, man. I don't think he will.
He's out of contract, isn't he?
Oh, is he?
No,
He's
I
out of
think
contract this season, I think, Dummett.
Oh,
Him and Shaw are the two defenders.
Well, then, yeah,
we
he's
might.
not.
We might have Laura create a meme for us when Dummett's, his free
Oh,
transfer.
no, me wrinkles are really bad. Don't make that meme. I noticed.
Right, so I suppose in a beautiful segue, which Laura has just popped on a plate for us.
Yes,
Thanks very much, Laura.
About wrinkles.
No, we're not talking about wrinkles. No, we're not talking about wrinkles. Paul Dummett obviously came through the Newcastle United Academy, and this week from the Hall of Fame, what we're going to do is we're going to look at players who've come through the famed Newcastle United Academy that's produced so many homegrown quality players over the years. I would say the list hasn't been long, but it's been distinguished, I would say. Some of the players that we have produced have popped up in the comments plenty of times there. If you really look back at it, we have had some absolutely fantastic players. It's probably just over the last 20 years, it's been fairly thin on the ground, which is reflected in some of our choices given the generation that we come from. I'm going to try and go a little bit further back and pay homage to some of the more impressive older players. There's a little getting in, try and get me votes up. But before we get started with this week, last time we talked about our famous Irish players because it was St. Patrick's Day, and of course, Shea Given won at an absolute canter, and I think he was closely followed by Keith Gillespie, who actually followed me after. Yes, he followed me after our little episode with that, so I was very pleased with myself that
I hope he voted for himself as well.
Oh, yeah. Do you think he did?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Thing was,
you would though, wouldn't you? I would. I'd vote for myself.
I didn't vote for my player. I voted for Shea Given.
Oh, did you?
Thanks.
Like, I knew he was going to win anyway, so.
I never do that. The other week, I fully voted for Warren Barton. I think I was 1%, and I was at 1%.
Yeah, that was you. Well, that's fair enough.
So, I'm voting for my player.
Now, obviously, we have some honourable mentions, and I know Ian is, he's very fond of like really raising some really random players, but we're not going to go for every single academy person that's came through the ranks. Okay, we're not going to talk David Edgar, although David Edgar's a good lad. He's a good lad. Matty Patterson. Who was the other one that played at Tottenham? Peter Ramage. We're not going to go to all of them, but they have some really notable players, particularly earlier on in the history of Newcastle United. Players like Dave Craig, Alan Foggin, Irvin Natris, fantastic player for Newcastle. Alan Kennedy, who went on to play and win European Cups for Liverpool. Kenny Wharton. So we've had some, we have had some great players that came through the ranks at Newcastle United. So any honourable mentions, Laura? Was there anybody who you thought that you were going to go for, but you decided, or you straight in with who you went with? You just, oh dear me, bloody hell.
You didn't tell us you were going to ask that, so I didn't pick an honourable mention, and I don't know any of the others. I'll go Dummett. I'm going Dummett.
Yeah, you could have went Dummett.
I'm going Dummett. Yeah.
Are you going to go? I thought you
just
for for me honourable mention.
Oh, for your honourable mention. No. I've written down somebody else. Scott, who kind of springs to mind for you when we think about those academy players who maybe didn't quite make your list, but have had an impact at Newcastle?
I mean, there's a few that didn't make my list because they're in other lists. Alan Shearer was part of our academy, but didn't come through for Newcastle, so he wasn't kind of part of our list. There you go. Maybe they came back to Newcastle and played, but I think there's a couple of players I got. Peter Bielsa's another one. One of my all-time favorite players. I just remember him being so. We were talking about Neymar. And it might be a wild comparison, but what Peter Bielsa could do with the ball, if he was a player now, you'd be comparing him with Neymar. You'd be comparing him to those top players because he was that good. Didn't turn out very well in the end, but that is what it is. But yeah, like I said, a couple of the names on the list are in other lists, and that's why I didn't go for them. Yeah,
there's a lot of. I like to overlap my lips. Overlap my lips.
That's his Tinder username.
Overlap me lips. There you go. From my very mouth. There you go. Anyway, so yes, I do. I like to overlap my lists. I'll put my teeth in. Oh Jesus, man! Wow. Ian.
Yes.
So ridiculous hole that I've dug myself into. Who would have been, who were one of your honourable mentions for academy players who have come through and representing Newcastle United?
Probably one that I would have went with, not that I know a lot about him, again, as I always say on these, it was just before my era, but was Lee Clark. I think I really liked him growing up because he was from Wallsend, and I just thought, that's where I'm from. But watching him, he, again, obviously played quite a while for. I think he was there for quite a few seasons. Good solid midfield player. Like I say, local lad, so he would have been my shout for honourable mention.
Yeah. Can you go back to that list? I can't believe I said that, man. Going back to the list of players, Steve Watson, of course, one of the entertainers representing Newcastle's very, very well. Steve Howie as well. And like I said, there has been those players that have come through. A lot of the time, Newcastle always seem like they've been in a bit of a because I think we've never had a manager that's been there for 7, 8, 9, 10, those types of players haven't had the opportunity to come through. I remember Ozzy Ardiles had, Clark, Howie, Watson, a lad who went to Celtic as well.
Alan Thompson.
There was a flood of players that came through there who all actually were very high level Premier League. Some players played in Europe, but it always seems like these players got away, So hopefully, coming back to the modern day, Elliot Anderson seems to be doing very, very well at Bristol Rovers, under Joey Barton. So hopefully players like that are going to be able to come through and break through the academy, and we might have our very own, Phil Foden, a local lad playing for Newcastle United. I mean, that is the dream, isn't it? That's what we all want, and I think talking about Paul Dummett, the pressure that comes on these players is absolutely immense, and perhaps that is a bit of a factor as well, that because we're so starved of success, starved of this. These superstar players that when they do come through, we've got these high hopes pinned on them. And when they don't quite live up to them, we're so disappointed. And that comes out in so many different ways with some of these players. So let's get into our choices then. We're just going over an hour, so I'll try and be as quick as possible. So, Laura, I'm going to come to you first. I know because, your friend Tony wants some more Laura. So, Laura, Academy graduates, the Hall of Fame, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Now, my person who I would like to nominate for the Hall of Fame is none other than Andy Carroll. He's from our neck of the woods, Roger, from Gateshead, from the teams. He made his professional debut in the UEFA Cup, actually. Just as a sub, but then his Premier League debut against Wigan. Rhoda was a very big fan of his, and I don't mean to name drop, but he's an old friend, so I know how much Rhoda was really liked him and how much he liked Rhoda and give him his chance, and Rhoda was good for him. And then I know he went on loan, was it to Preston? Yeah. And that didn't work out, but he came back, and then he was so good for us in the Championship with Lovencrans, 17 goals, that, and that was when I was kind of starting to I've always liked football and followed football, but around that time was when he started playing regularly, and we all knew him and all grew up with him and knocked about him. That was when I started watching it regularly and taking a massive interest. And it was absolutely gutting when he left on deadline day. But like on the flip side, like for a local lad from the teams, 35 million at Liverpool was absolutely massive for him. Like it was like so good for him to go to that big team, even though it was devastating for us for Newcastle as people wanting the best for him. It was brilliant. And then the return, the comeback didn't obviously go as planned. I think he was massively plagued by injury, and like it's no secret. And I think it, like, I really do always think, like, what if he didn't get as injured so many times? Because everyone hates playing against him. He's such a nuisance. When he comes on, you know that what he's about, and you know what he's going to do. He's such a threat all of the time. So yeah, I made a closing argument as well, just to really cement him in the Hall of Fame.
Laura,
she's very prepared.
Yeah, no wonder people are saying that you are the business mind.
Well,
absolutely no wonder.
I did do this a couple of weeks ago, and it's been sitting over there in the corner.
She's rehearsed it, hasn't she?
No, I haven't rehearsed it. I'm a teacher. I don't need to rehearse. I'm used to talking a lot. So, anyways, so my closing argument is he's a local lad who loves the club. He was key for us in the championship. He's very down to earth. He would always still speak whenever I see him. Seen him in Stack like not that long ago, and came over, sat, like, very, very nice person. Injury troubles plagued him. He's still a nuisance, still a threat, as we can say. And I feel really sorry for him because he's now still playing for Steve Bruce, who obviously like devastated. And my final argument, he's had the best and the worst hairstyles I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
that give you Andy Carroll.
Yeah, that the braids he had was something really quite.
Yeah, that was my favorite. I always remember sitting in the gold medal, and we were sitting in the gold medal, and the football was on the telly, and we didn't know he was getting them, and he come on the telly, and we were all together, and everybody just went, "What's he doing?" Like it was.
Yeah. What are those?
Yeah.
Just before we go into our next one, no love for Chrissy Waddle from El Grande Salmon, but actually, Chris Waddle he came through with Towlow Town, so. He played for them first, the old sausage maker. So he wasn't from our academy, although he is from the area. He's from the general vicinity. So El Grande Salmon, I normally bow to your superior knowledge, but Waddle was at Towlow Town, so he was actually a signing. He didn't come through.
And Chris Waddle also says penalty the same as I do.
How do you say it?
I wonder how he says Lascelles.
Probably the same as me, Lascelles, and he probably says Wilbington as well.
Yeah,
Manquillo.
I suppose it is telling that Laura's talking about Andy Carroll on the week that the stocks close. And
don't bring that up again, man.
He's a big fan of this. It's one less Tinder date venue for you to go through.
You know what it is? That's generally where I used to go. On the off chance that I did get a Tinder date.
You took them to the Stack on a date?
It's mint, live music, gin.
It's a bit too busy for a date for my liking.
Not midweek. Laura, you like to really get into the intimate conversation, don't you?
Well, I don't like people, so I just like a quiet pub. Like, I do like Stack when I'm with like my friends. I've never been for ages. I wasn't like a regular, but I do quite like it when I'm with my friends. But not a date. It's too loud. No. I wouldn't be able to hear anyone.
I know, because you get drunk there. If you play like the karaoke bingo and then you go to Pop World, ideal. Who wouldn't like that as a first date?
Mate.
Most people, I would say.
I think that's where I'm going wrong.
Take that off your Tinder profile right now.
If you've got on your Tinder profile, that
is hindering you right now. Scott, please pull us out of this. So, Laura, thank you so much. That was a very, very good. I know that's been sitting in your mind for 3 or 4 weeks now, and I know, but I think you did an absolutely sterling job there. So well done, thank you, Scott, our man in Amsterdam. Who is your choice for the Hall of Fame? Who's your pick?
For me, it was Tim Krul. Not necessarily through the academy, but brought in as a youngster and played in the youth teams and brought up and made his kind of debut for Newcastle. Came on, I think, UEFA Cup, just like Andy Carroll. I think he started because Steve Harper pulled up and got an interest in Shea Given. That might have been Palermo. Aye.
Yeah.
Then he didn't actually
Andy made
start
his
for
debut?
Newcastle. I don't know.
Well,
I
I've
got
I think it might have been,
2006. There you
Yeah.
go.
I think
Link
you're
there.
right.
It's
But
aligning.
he didn't actually start in the league for 4 years after that for us, because he went out on a couple of loans, got a couple of bad injuries, which was a bit, well, kind of plagued his career as well. A bit like Andy Carroll, he had a fair few injuries. Obviously, he was in goal for that famous 5-1 win over the Mackhams.
Yeah.
He was made first choice when I think Given left, and Harper was kind of, well, Harper got injured the season before, which is where Krul came in and Krul took over, but he didn't get the number one till the season after that. So Harper was still flying around. Then Harper, I think, went on loan to Brighton, I think it was. Incidentally, Krul went on loan to Brighton later on in his career, but we'll come to that. I can remember that 2013-14 season. I think it was like 3 months or something where Krul was just unstoppable. Nothing was getting past him. And he actually got Player of the Month. I know, Ian, you're a big Player of the Month stats guy. I think he was one of only a handful of Newcastle players to win it, and certainly one of only a few goalkeepers to win it.
That is correct. He won it the same month as the Manager of the Month, I believe.
Yeah. Aye, because we went on that string of performances, and it was the Spurs game, especially where I think he must have made about 15, 16 saves. He was just a brick wall. Then it went a bit weird. Like, he signed a contract extension and then was loaned to Ajax. And then he never played for Ajax, my local team now. He came back in January, went back to Holland, played for AZ, got a few games for AZ Alkmaar. Then he signed for Brighton, and I think it was a loan, and then they signed him within the loan, within the transfer window. It was a weird one. I think he'd left us then, and that was like his 12-year stint done. And obviously now he's still playing for Norwich, still in the Premier League every other season. And obviously, I've also got to mention was it the World Cup where he was brought on? I know it's not linked to Newcastle, but he came on for the penalty shootout, and he did what he was supposed to do. So, my pick was Tim Krul. Also, I used to work in a fruit-based computer store, and he used to come in quite a lot to get his phone fixed because he kept dropping it.
Ironic.
He kept dropping his phone and breaking the screen, ironically, for a goalkeeper. So yeah, I used to fix his phone a lot, and he's a really nice bloke as well.
Yeah, he does come across as a nice guy. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and obviously the Holland connection as well.
Can I make a complaint? Did I get a photo of Andy Carroll at the beginning when I said Andy Carroll?
Well, you know what, Laura? I was just working on that now. So I'm
just clarifying.
Don't worry.
Your case was that good. You didn't need a picture.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
We all need an Andy Carroll picture as long as it's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. I'll find you good. Don't worry.
Thanks.
I'll find
I
one.
preferred him with his shaven head.
Right. Was that more a bit of you?
Yeah, preferred that.
Yeah. Right. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find a good Andy Carroll picture. There you go.
He also actually, just on that, I know we're running really out of time, but
Bencham, Batistuta, the Dunstan Ferguson, the Gateshead Gabby Gould.
Oh,
there he is.
He got me really wrong at my first job in Republic because I rang in sick after a night out and he was in the background singing on a guitar. He was singing I Get All the Girls on a guitar, and I was ringing in sick saying that I was poorly, and he was singing and I got wrong.
That sounds about right. So, thank you very much. I think that was a very good representation for a nomination. Sorry, Scott, by yourself for Timmy Krul. So I think I'm gonna go last. I'm just gonna stamp my authority. So Ian, who is your player that you've chosen for the extra time not local lad, academy graduate, Hall of Fame? Who's your player that you've chosen? Go for it.
I have went for none other than the Mackham Slayer, Shola from Fenham, shot one down, Ameobi. He was at the club. I think he was at the club for 90. I think it was in the 90s. He came through the academy. I think he got his debut, I read, in 2000. I think it was against Chelsea. Obviously spent, I think it was 14 years at the club, I think. Whether that's because he just wasn't good enough to go to anyone else, but he was sort of like a...
Oh, great case, Ian.
Hold on. That was... Shola, if you're watching...
You can't throw shade on your own Hall of Fame nomination. That's not how it works, Ian.
Wait, I don't know how anything works.
Ian, if you turn up your Tinder dates with this attitude, no wonder you're sitting there single on a Friday night.
You weren't the best swipe, but you're the only one that would go to Stack.
I'm out with you, but right, I've
pretty much, yeah.
3 birds on the bubble, and they're a bit better than you.
Can I be two to that? Well, one's enough. Anyway, yeah. No, he was, like I say, a good servant for the club. Came up with some really important goals. Equalised against Barcelona at the Nou Camp. I believe it was him that assisted Alan Shearer's record-breaking goal.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Again, even his assists, I think, I think it was a chest pass for Cissé's second against Chelsea.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact: he never missed a penalty for Newcastle United.
Yeah.
He took, I think it was 12 penalties, scored them all. Scored a couple of goals against Sunderland. He likes hats from his Cribs appearance.
Yeah.
Would he like that one? I'm not too sure, but he liked hats regardless. He eats apples on bikes. You threw shade at me, Roger. I'm going in on you.
You throw shade on your own bloody nominations, you.
And also, the most important factor, he gave us a high five at the bottom of the big market when he was eating a pizza once. I was on a staff night out. I was outside of Flares of all places, not on a Tinder date. And then I started singing the Ameobi.
You don't need Tinder if you get into Flares, Bonnie lad.
I was singing the Ameobi song.
And a shitty stick is what you need.
Don't knock Flares. Flares is great. I was singing the Ameobi song and he laughed. And I was like, can I have a high five, mate? And he was eating a pizza and gave us a high five. So just for that alone, he should be in the Hall of Fame, regardless of his footballing career. But no, like I say, the original Mackham Slayer, and someone that, again, he had his injuries, but he was a good servant for the club, despite, like I say, him not being the best player in the world. He was a good player for us on occasions.
Yeah, no, he was. Yeah, I think if we do, we're talking cult heroes as well, as Freddie says. Shola's one of those ones. He's a proper cult hero, isn't he? He's a very niche player. I think outside of Newcastle United, you wouldn't know who he is, but there is a lot of love for Shola.
That was the point that I was trying to make, but you said it so much more eloquently than just not being good enough anywhere else.
Oh, you've just sort of brought yourself back into me heart there. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And I really liked when he was in his debut, when he squared up to Dennis Wise. That was a special moment as well. I'm going to try and find that picture now. That was it was a clash of styles. The lad from Fenham and the little Aggie bastard from where Dennis Wise is from. That was a special moment as well. I think I'm going to have to find a picture of that. For those people who maybe haven't seen that one, here it is. There's your man, Shola, squaring up to later
Love
on
that
our
kit, by the way.
That was my favourite kit on my Man United. It was an absolute classic.
See, I like that one, but with the brown ale rather than the NTL. Just on Shola, was he the one that, I can't remember which way it was round, but the interview to play out was about Bobby Robson, and they were like, "Oh, we get called all sorts."
Yeah.
And was it him that said, "So what does he call you?" And he says, "Was it Carl Court, or was it the other way around?"
Yeah, he said, "What does he call you?" And he says, "Oh, Carl Court."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Also, a stat for you. Shola Ameobi is our second highest goal scorer in Europe, behind Alan Shearer. So he is in good company. Like I say, scoring goals against Barcelona and the likes.
Yeah. I think like for a certain generation of fans, like Shola is a bit of a hero. Like it's undeniable. I think for people probably from when I started watching, maybe Scott as well, he's a bit of like, you saw the potential there. I think he really suffered for playing. He would just play anywhere. So he played out on the left. He never really, because Alan Shearer was there, and Alan Shearer was such a focal point for the whole club and for the city. Not that Shola was anywhere near the player that Alan Shearer was. I think perhaps his development probably struggled because he was only going to play if Shearer, on one. If Shearer was injured, and they couldn't really play together. So then, I remember Souness used to play him out on the left, and to be fair to Shola, he played with a big shoulder injury for a long time, and he did play through a lot of injuries. So I think he's well placed in that, and at least to be in with a shout for the Hall of Fame. So I think we'll take that. So thank you very much, Ian. That was a very, very good nomination and very good.
It wasn't a good case, but
And question, no, Sammy, like,
no.
You would have had him in, Ian.
I mean, he was going to be my honourable mention, but I already dropped his name last week when I played football against him.
Yeah. So it was a hip injury. Thank you very much, Dan. It was a hip injury. I thought it was a shoulder. So I was quite torn. I nearly went Lee Clark. Nearly went Howie as well. He came through. But I was really torn between two players. The first player was Gaza. 4 seasons, 105, 106 games, 25 goals. I mean, what a player. Like, probably, we probably saw bits of it in the black and white shirt, but went on to be, probably considered one of the best players that has ever played the game. So that would be very difficult to argue against. But I went with a player who I didn't see play, although I did. I've seen him in the past on various black and white videos, and he's been a long associated with the club, and the last captain of Newcastle United to lift a major piece of silverware. So I'm hoping this is going to help me push me over the line. I've gone with Bob Moncur. Came through the youth system at Newcastle. Born in Penrith, but Newcastle was his first club, so he played for us and he came through. So that's where I'm going through. He came through not necessarily when it was an academy, but he was an apprentice back in the day. Difficult to kind of sum up his career with Newcastle, but nearly 300 games for Newcastle. And he lifted the Fairs Cup and then went on to work for Newcastle United as well. I know I was a bit torn because he was a bit of a controversial figure in terms of he was very much on the payroll at Newcastle. So he very much toured the party line with various chairmen and various regimes that were under control of the club. So he was a bit of he was slightly compromised in that respect. But when it came down to it, I just had to go with somebody who I thought, we've not seen this club. Perth, not Penrith. Perth, not Penrith. Thank you very much, Tom. You can't get away with it now, can you? Now with Google, can you? I just couldn't. Fairs Cup winner, represented Newcastle captain for years and years and years, and yes, he went and played for Sunderland as well, so I don't, but I just, purely on the fact that he lifted a trophy for Newcastle, and none of us have ever seen, apart from those people probably seen us lift the Texaco Cup and maybe it's the Intertoto Cup.
The Intertoto Cup.
Scott Parker with a little certificate or whatever it was. So I have gone with Bob Moncur for my nomination. I I think he still lives. He used to live along Lower Fell somewhere. We used to see him up Valley Drive, where the posh people live. Valley Drive.
Yeah,
very nice. But yeah, I think if we put the after aside, I think purely as a football man and a player for Newcastle United, I think Bob Moncur was an absolute legend for Newcastle United, and he did score 3 goals across those finals against. I'm going to try and say it. Uzep Dorsa.
Dorsa.
Was it?
Ujpest Dorsa.
Ujpest Dorsa. So my nomination for the Hall of Fame is none other than Bob Moncur. Captain, fantastic. Lifted that trophy in Newcastle. I wonder who the next captain who's going to lift the trophy for Newcastle United is going to be. Hopefully it's within our lifetime. Bloody hell, Jesus Christ, hopefully it is. But we shall see. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, our
children of all ages.
Children of all ages and all genders and all beliefs. Our nominations from Laura, we have Andy Carroll. From Scott, we have Safe Hands, Timmy Krul. Ian has gone with apple eating, penalty scoring, Mackham slaying, Shola Ameobi. And my choice is captain fantastic, the last player to lift a major trophy for Newcastle United, Bob Moncur. So we'll put that on Toon Pools in probably in about 10-15 minutes, if I remember. And please express your opinion as well. I know these are our choices, but we have had a lot of players come through the academy. So please get involved and give us your opinion on who would have been your choices. I know it was really hard to choose between Gaza and him, but I went with Moncur in the end. So I'm sure I'll get some grief for that, but we'll take it. So check out Toon Pools on Twitter later on for that as well. Just before we finish, I know we've gone on for a little bit longer than we normally do. No, I think we sometimes go on for a little bit longer than this. This weekend, as we've said, there's no Newcastle United game this weekend. So we thought that we'd kind of flag up a few games that are going on within the region. I think, Ian, have you got a little bit of info about some of these games? I'll put up the graphic over here. So Scott and I might have to sort of lean this way a little bit. And always good to support some of the local teams that are playing in the National League and lower down in the Northern League. I don't know what they're all called now, pitching in NPL Premier Division. So, Ian, is there any standout fixtures for you? Any interesting ones?
Yeah, I've done a couple. So I've done 3 south of the Tyne. So South Shields are at home against Stafford Rangers, which decent game because South Shields are 2nd and Stafford are 7th. So I think South Shields are going quite well in that league. Dunstan are at home to Cleethorpes Town. Again, another good game, 7th versus 3rd. Hebburn are playing Tadcaster Albion.
I went to Hebburn the other week for a game and it's brilliant ground. The sports bar is brilliant. It was a lush day and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was.
Is
really
that the
good.
ground where you get the end of Felon bypass and then turn left at the roundabout?
Yeah,
the lights and then just down there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Used to drive past that. It does look like a cunning little setup.
It is really good.
Then we have north of the Tyne. Again, I'm not too sure what divisions or what, but North Shields, who again are 2nd in their respective league, are playing
EBAC Northern League Division 1.
Northern League Division 1. Thank you for that, Roger. Playing Penrith, who are all the way down in 18th, so fingers crossed should be easy points. Actually, one of my old managers from my first ever job, which was at Wallsend Boys Club, the manager, Mark Nash, used to play for Hartlepool, I believe. He's the manager at North Shields now. Then you've got Newcastle Benfield against Thornaby. If you do fancy an away day on non-league day, Whitley Bay are travelling to Gisborough Town.
So, that's not a bad drive. It's quite a nice drive actually down to Gisborough.
To be honest, that is the only away game that I've got in me selected fixtures. Everything else is at home. Obviously, a little bit higher up in the football pyramid, Gateshead, who are 1st, are playing Bradford PA. I cannot remember who's just below them, but they've played a game more than second place, and I think they're playing them next week. So it's a big, important game for Gateshead. Yeah. And then finally, Blythe Spartans are at home to Hereford.
Woo, go on, Laura.
Hereford Blythe.
So that is my non-league roundup for anyone that wants to go. All games, I think, are 3 o'clock kickoffs tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, now, just before we finish, I did say I was gonna put it on you. I'm just gonna roll back from that.
Is that with your overlapping lips?
Overlapping lips earlier on. I'm gonna put you all on the spot. I've made a little table that I can keep for later reference. So at the moment we are on 31 points. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games left this season. Laura, I know you've prepared, so I'm going to go to you first. Laura, we're just going to say win, lose, or draw. Okay, and then I'm going to try and tot up how many points you think we're going to finish on. We're not going to go lead.
I've wrote it down how many points I think.
Oh my God, Laura.
God, she is proper prepared, isn't she?
Mate, this is why she gets the airtime. Do you know what I mean?
This is why she's co-host.
And this is also why I get so annoyed when he changes it all and it doesn't happen because I've made notes. And I get so prepared because I panic that he's going to ask us something stupid and I don't know what I'm talking about. Which I don't know what I'm talking about, but at least I can't go around with numbers, surely.
Don't call me Shirley. Right. Okay. So, Laura, Spuds.
Depends if the fourth coming.
Win, lose, or draw? Spurs.
Lose.
Lose. Wolves at home, who are missing Ruben Neves and Jimenez. You've gone for a win, so that's +3. Yep. Leicester City at home.
Draw.
Draw. Palace.
Win.
Ooh.
I believe it's a nighttime game.
It is.
And I think that benefits us, yeah.
Under the lights, freshly cut grass. Ooh, yeah.
Even though I don't like them, but
Norwich away.
Win.
Ooh, yes. So that's 41. Liverpool away.
Is it not at home?
Oh, at home. Sorry. Yep. At home,
I've added up wrong if we're on 41.
I thought you couldn't go wrong with numbers.
You cannot go wrong with numbers.
Oh, I've went massively wrong. Yeah.
Wolves win 34 points. Leicester draw 35. You think we're going to win against Palace? That's 38.
I know where I've gone wrong. I've added 41. The points to a number of games, not a number of points by an accident.
Yeah. You cannot go wrong with numbers. Right. Laura, Liverpool away.
At home.
Lose. Okay.
It's at home,
Liverpool home. Man City. Lose. So still on 41. Arsenal at home.
Lose.
Ooh. Still on 41. Burnley away.
Win.
So we finished the season, in your opinion, on 44 points. Yep.
Yep, if you say so. Not the number I've got.
Numbers. Right. Brilliant. Okay. Scott, I'm going to come to you. Sorry, we haven't heard from you in a while. So come on, Scott. Give us your Spurs Spurs away.
Lose.
Wolves at home.
I think we could sneak a win. I'll go for a win.
Okay. So
with the players they put out.
Leicester at home.
Draw.
35. Palace at home.
Draw as well.
Ooh, 36. Norwich away.
Win. For the first time since 1994, by the way. But yeah, I think we'll win.
Ooh. Oh,
really?
Scott.
Boosh.
Absolutely love it. Boom. That's why you've got the Recaro seat right there. Liverpool away. Liverpool
Lose.
at home.
It's at home. Yeah. Lose.
Okay, so we're still on 39. City away.
Lose.
Okay, 39. Arsenal at home.
It depends on what Arsenal's league position is like, but I think we could sneak a draw.
Okay, so you're going to go 40 there. And Burnley away.
Win.
Ooh, for you think
I
we'll
think
finish
Burnley will
on
be
40,
gone.
43 points. Okay. Ian,
Yes.
let's do this. Spurs away.
Lose.
Wolves at home.
Draw.
Okay. 32. Leicester at home.
I'm going to say win.
Go on, lad. That's 35. So lose, win, no, draw. Palace at home.
Win again. Nighttime game. Also, big shout to Mark, who managed to sort us a ticket for that. Thank you very much, Mark.
Good lad,
Appreciate
Mark.
that.
Fuck off! Fuck off!
That's what a response I was expecting.
Yeah. Norwich away.
Win.
Come on. 41. Liverpool at home.
Lose.
41. Man City away.
Lose.
Arsenal at home.
Draw.
42. And Burnley away.
Win.
45 points. Right, you've got us finished on 45. Okay, so this is quite interesting. There we go. I'm going to go Spurs. I think we're going to draw that game. So I'm going to go 32. I think we're going to beat Wolves. 35. I think we're going to beat Leicester. I don't care. 38. I think we're going to draw with Palace, even though they've got an FA Cup game. I think we're going to draw with them. Norwich. I think they're going to be knackered. I think we're going to beat them. 42. Liverpool. I think I have a feeling that we are going to have we've got that Liverpool and Man City game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not necessarily. I think we are going to have a say in where the title goes, because I think it's like written that Sky have planned these games. So
thinking it was just going to go down.
And there's that, if you go back to the Crystal Palace Liverpool game all those years ago, where Liverpool were cruising at 2 or 3-0 up,
3-0,
Palace came back. So I feel like that is the way that the
I was going to say you've got qualifying for Europe, like
getting in Europe. I do think we win versus Liverpool. Ooh, we only win versus Liverpool and Man City. Oh my God! Wow,
I'd be happy with that.
I'll be safe. I'll keep us safe.
I think we're going to draw against Liverpool. 43, and I think we might lose against Man City. I think we're going to beat Arsenal.
Bloody hell, Roger.
Yeah,
fine.
Go harder, go home. Do you know what I mean?
Fair enough, yeah.
In the spirit of Bobby Moncur.
You'll score a hat-trick.
And I think we're going to draw last game of the season, and I think it's going to be very frustrating for Burnley, and they're going to get relegated. So I think we might finish on 47 points. What?
Go for it.
I was looking at the other games as well, and I don't think Burnley will go down. I think Burnley have got a nice easy run up compared to the other teams.
Yeah.
I think it's Everton or Leeds.
Yeah, you've got to be optimistic. You know what I mean? Like, why not? So, just to recap, Laura, you've got us finishing on 44. Actually, let's have a look. I'll just quickly have a look at the final table of last season and see where that would have had us final.
My mum's just, I'm getting wrong off me mum. Just texted us saying I'm shit at counting.
Right, so 44 points, Laura, last season would have had us finishing 14th.
Yeah, I think that's about.
My points total would have had us finishing 12th. Scott, yours would have had us finishing 15th. And Ian, you would have had us 13th. So we're in the right sort of area, so we'll see.
Basically,
we'll
we're safe. We're fine.
Yeah. I think
but also, last season, 29 points would have kept you safe. I don't think it's going to be that this year.
Yeah.
As low as that.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Fulham on 28 points got relegated. I mean, Burnley were on 39, so you could argue it's 39 points needed, but the 18th place was 28 points.
Wow. I mean, because I remember we were also worried about Fulham having this amazing run, and then they just totally went to shit, like, you know. But yeah. So Davey loves an optimist. You say, Davey, me and you are kindred spirits, man. We're kindred spirits. Gary Hall saying, "I read Scott." I think he must have just joined us now. But yeah. And Lampard's post Palace tantrum makes me think he doesn't have the stomach for the relegation fight. I'll always back Dyche. Yeah, we'll see. So that brings us to a close. Thank you so much. We've gone on for a little bit longer than we know. Actually, would we know?
I know. I thought I started 8, getting early finish, be able to watch Gogglebox and that. Okay, obviously, clearly not.
Laura, we have our very own version of Gogglebox right here. So, actually, that could be a name on Tinder, couldn't it, Ian? Gogglebox.
You don't have a name, do you?
Would anyone watch
normal name?
Do you not?
Yeah, it's
know.
literally just your first name.
Oh, is it?
Your first name, so you can't even Facebook stalk them. Lord, you've got to Facebook stalk them.
Yeah, but if you search, you can do an image search, you can download the picture, and then you can image search, and then you can find them.
What are you on about stalking?
I'm not that technical.
You can find them on LinkedIn,
right or left.
Yeah. I can't believe Davey Eddy has said shit at counting was the best line out when I said overlapping lips. Do you know what I mean? Davey, come on, son, pay attention. Right. Maybe I'm getting mixed up with Grinder. Who knows? So, thank you so much. Thank you, Scott, for joining us. Please stay tuned to Scott on Football Manager. He's got some big games coming up. What are your big games coming up, did you say? You've got Arsenal in the semi-final or the quarter-final?
And the semi-final of the FA Cup. That's the episode that's live now. So, semi-final FA Cup with Arsenal and Southampton. And I'll be recording next week's tomorrow, probably.
There we go. And Laura, have you got any projects coming up on YouTube at all?
No.
Are you not doing like times tables for the kids or something? You know what I mean?
Sats.
I hope not. Not after that.
Sats.
And Ian, as always, it's been a pleasure to hear about your Tinder adventures. I think it should become a weekly feature. Ian's Tinder
Diaries.
Tinder Diaries. It sounds like
thought, right? It's called Tinder, and you get a match, and both of those are to do with fire, and that's what the icon is.
What?
That is. I bet you someone got paid a lot of money to do all of that about 10 years ago when it first came out, and people were like, "Whoa!"
Oh my god!
Yeah. Well, why do you think Twitter the icon's a bird when you send a tweet? So,
I know that. I got the Twitter one, but
it's the same thing, same idea, though, isn't it? I love the Facebook icon.
The Tinder one, you get a match.
They're going with that.
But it's a play on the word match because it means that you've matched someone. That's genius.
Wow. That is. See, that's why they're millionaires and we're sitting here on a Friday night.
Yeah, sitting here on a Friday night.
Talking absolute bollocks about whatever. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us, those people who join us live. Thank you for the people who make comments. I try to show as many as I possibly could. Please pass on the good crack from Gallowgateshots. Remember, there's a membership there for £2.99 where you can become a member. You can get on the Telegram group as well, and you get some extra content from your man Scott and some various people from the Gallowgateshots stable. So thank you so much for joining me this evening, Scott, Ian, and of course my co-host, the lovely Laura. And everybody have an absolutely fantastic weekend. Try and check out some of those non-league games this weekend, but have a brilliant time. Stay alert. Have a great weekend, everybody. Everybody wave. Say good evening. Bye-bye.
Good evening.
Bye.